you are not forgotten.
You are not here by accident, and that is the first thing that needs to be said plainly, not because of an algorithm, not because of curiosity, and not because of a spare moment. There are times in life when your presence in a certain place is proof that something greater is operating behind a veil the naked eye cannot see. This moment carries that kind of weight. It is not light. It is not random. It is calling you to face a truth you may have felt for a long time but never dared to name. There is a movement unfolding, not out there first, but at a deeper level, where the decisions of an entire family, even of many generations, have been quietly waiting to be activated. You are standing at the center of that movement, not because you are the best, the strongest, or the most holy, but because you are the one willing to listen, even when you do not yet understand everything. And in great stories, willingness always matters more than perfection. Have you ever felt this feeling, as if you carry a responsibility no one speaks of, but that is always present? As if you do not stand up, no one else will, not through power but through choice, not through a loud voice, but through a silent agreement in your heart that things cannot continue the same way. Your family, your bloodline, the stories repeating year after year, all of it is reaching a point where it is either healed or it continues to pass its cracks on to the next generation. You were not born into this family by chance. Some people are born to enjoy blessings, but some are born to open the door so blessings can enter. Your journey belongs to the second group, and journeys like that are rarely smooth. They often begin with a sense of not belonging, as if you do not fully fit where you stand. You see things others do not see. You feel weights others learn to ignore, and many times you ask yourself why you are the one carrying these feelings. But the truth is, precisely because you see, you are chosen not to turn away. There are doors that only open when someone is brave enough to stand before them longer than their fear. There are family cycles that only end when one person dares to say, even if only within their own heart, that this is enough. Enough silence, enough repetition, enough accepting what is called destiny but is really just an unhealed wound. This moment did not come earlier, and it did not come later. It came when you had gone far enough to no longer be naive, but not so far that you lost the ability to believe. You have prayed, sometimes with words, sometimes only with sighs in the night. There were dreams that were once very clear, then faded with time, to the point where you began to wonder if you made it all up. But what is planted in the deepest place of the soul does not disappear. It only waits for the right season to rise. There is an ancient line written for moments like this, that God will do things so great that even if they were told in advance, people would struggle to believe, not to overwhelm you, but to remind you that what is coming cannot be measured by old experience. You cannot use an old map to enter a new land, and that is why you feel both excited and uneasy, because deep inside you know everything is about to change, and real change always asks you to step out of what is familiar. This is not only about you. This involves the house you live in, the names spoken around the dinner table, those who came before and those who will come after. There are promises not written in ink, but in the blood and tears of previous generations. They prayed, they hoped, they believed in the way they knew, and then they stopped halfway. Not because they were weak, but because they were not called to go further. The rest of the journey has been handed to you. You may have felt that you were walking alone, sir, but the truth is, you were never alone. Every step you take, every time you choose not to react according to old habits, every time you choose silence instead of harm, is quietly shifting something in the atmosphere of your family. Great changes rarely begin with thunder. They usually begin with one person changing the way they stand in a familiar room. Understand this clearly. This is not a promise of a life without difficulty. This is a confirmation that the difficulties from here on will have meaning. You are no longer enduring without direction. You are being aligned with a purpose whose impact reaches far beyond temporary emotion. There will be days you do not feel strong. There will be days you doubt yourself. But even on those days, what is unfolding continues, because it does not depend on your feelings, but on the faithfulness of the one who placed you in this position. And perhaps the most important thing you need to hear right now is this. You are not waiting for something to happen. Something is waiting for you to be ready. That readiness does not come from knowing every answer. It comes from daring to stay with the question, daring to keep walking even when the path has not yet taken shape, daring to believe that if you were called here, you will also be guided step by step. This moment is the intersection between what has passed and what is about to come, and your presence here is not to observe, but to begin stepping into your own story, with all the depth, responsibility, and grace that comes with it. Some things do not arrive with a loud sound, but with a lingering sensation, as if the air around you has changed and you have not yet named it. You still wake up, still do familiar tasks, still walk the same old roads, but deep inside a new awareness is forming. You are no longer standing in the same place. Even if the outside has not changed, the inside has begun to shift. And that shift does not ask permission from anyone, including you. Dreams that were set aside for too long because they did not come true are no longer lying still. They do not shout. They do not demand. They simply return quietly like memories that never truly left. At times you wonder whether you were naive to believe in them. But the truth is, dreams planted by faith do not have an expiration date. They only wait for the right season to come alive again. And that season does not arrive when you are ready in the way you think, but when everything around you is forced to change to make room for something new. You have prayed a great deal, sometimes with clear words, sometimes only with long stretches of silence. There were nights when you asked for nothing specific, only sighed, as if that breath itself was the only prayer you still had the strength to offer. And you once thought that the long silence was a sign of delay, even of being forgotten. But the silence of God is not emptiness. It is the place where everything is being rearranged at a deeper level you have not yet seen. There is a truth you are beginning to touch. Not every delay is a refusal. Some things must wait until you no longer cling to the old way so they can come in a new way. You have had to learn to release certain expectations, endure certain losses, and walk through seasons where hope became more fragile than ever, not to exhaust you, but to make you flexible, so that when the time comes, you will not break under the weight of the very thing you once prayed for. Your family is also in that process. Even if not everyone is aware of it, there are tensions never spoken, distances covered by busyness, and wounds called by other names to avoid facing them. But what is not healed does not disappear on its own. It only waits for someone awake enough to stop calling it normal. And that person, whether you want it or not, is you. Not because you are better than anyone else, but because you cannot look away. You feel when the atmosphere in the house grows heavy. You see the cycles repeating over the years, the same reactions, the same outcomes. And somewhere inside, there is a small but steady voice saying this can be different, not by forcing everyone to change, but by changing the position you take within the story. You are beginning to understand that preparation is not about learning something new, but about adjusting how you stand before what already is. Preparation is when you stop demanding that everything move at your pace and begin to align with a greater rhythm guiding the whole process. There are doors that do not open when you knock harder, but when you stand still long enough to realize they have been slightly open all along. And then, in the middle of all these quiet movements, a line echoes like confirmation of what you are sensing. God has done great things for us, and we are filled with joy. Psalm 126:3. This line does not only speak of what has passed, it speaks of what is forming, of a joy not yet complete but already beginning to glow. A joy that does not come from perfect circumstances, but from the awareness that you are no longer walking without direction. You have not seen the whole picture, and you do not need to. Real journeys rarely give you a complete map from the beginning. Instead, they give you just enough light for the next step. And this next step asks you to stand in the tension between what is familiar and what is unknown, between the safety of the old and the call of the new. This is where many turn back, but it is also where stories are rewritten. You are in the right place for this alignment, not because you have done everything right, but because you have stayed. You did not quit, even when you wanted to. You did not close the door, even when doors once slammed shut in front of you. That endurance is not accidental. It is a sign that something is being protected, even when you are not aware of it. And from here, everything will no longer revolve only around what you receive, but around who you are willing to become in this process. Because what is coming does not only want to change your circumstances, it wants to reshape your role in your family, in the flow of relationships that have shaped you from very early on. You are not only being prepared to receive blessing, but to become the one who keeps that blessing from being lost again. The shift has already begun, not loudly, but not reversibly. And as you continue to walk forward, you will realize that what once confused you was actually guiding you to the exact place you needed to stand, at the exact moment when everything begins to come together. There is a very specific moment in this journey when you realize that you are no longer just the one searching for answers, but have become the answer for your own family. Not in a loud way or with the posture of a natural leader, but in a much quieter way. You are the one who no longer avoids the hard questions. You stay with them. You allow them to touch you, and that alone has placed you in a position you never imagined before. You begin to see more clearly that everything does not revolve around who is right or who is wrong, who is strong or who is weak. What matters more is who is awake enough to stop the old cycle. There are family patterns that no longer need explanation because they have been lived out too many times. The habit of staying silent when it is time to speak. The habit of exploding when listening is needed. The habit of loving without knowing how to protect. You have seen all of it, not to judge, but to recognize that without a stopping point, these patterns will continue flowing into the lives of your children like an underground stream that never runs dry. And then you come to understand something uncomfortable but very real. You were not chosen because everything in you was already ready, but because you are someone who can become ready. There is a great difference between those two things. Readiness does not come from having enough knowledge, enough faith, or enough confidence. It comes from no longer running away from the inner call within you. You have heard it for a long time, only now you are no longer pretending you cannot hear it. Your family may not recognize what is happening within you. They may still see you through old labels, familiar roles, the one who overthinks, the one who is different, the one who is not like the rest. But that very difference is the space where something new can enter. If you were exactly the same as everyone else, you would not be able to open any other path. And even though at times this makes you feel lonely, this loneliness is not a sign that you are going the wrong way. It is often a sign that you are walking ahead. There is a line written for moments like this: trust in God and you will be established. Not because everything suddenly becomes easy, but because when you trust, you no longer stand on the shaky ground of temporary emotions. You begin to stand on a deeper foundation, where your decisions are not controlled by fear of other people's reactions. And in that moment, you become dangerous to old cycles because you are no longer easily pulled back. You are not called to fix everyone. You are called to stand in the right place, to stand in humility, but not retreat, to stand in love, but not compromise with what is harming the whole family. Sometimes, the greatest obedience is not doing something new, but stopping what is no longer right, stopping habitual reactions, stopping silence when silence only feeds distance, stopping the carrying of burdens that were never assigned to you. And if you are listening this far, perhaps there is a part of you gently nodding, not because you understand everything, but because you recognize yourself in these lines. You do not need to do anything big with that feeling. Simply acknowledge that it is real. A small acknowledgement is sometimes enough for a door to open. Some people choose to leave a trace, a quiet confirmation that they are here, that they are listening, not to seek attention, but to remind themselves that they did not turn away. And some choose to stay longer with this journey because they feel it touching something very real inside them. The truth is, you are not the only one walking this path, even when it feels that way. There are people in very distant places, in very different families, carrying the same weight in their hearts. And by allowing yourself to be present, by allowing yourself to keep listening, you unknowingly create an invisible thread connecting you to them. Not to compare, but to remember that this journey has community, even when that community does not sit in the same room. What is forming is not only a change in your awareness, but a shift in your role. You are no longer only the one affected by the atmosphere of your family. You are beginning to affect it in return, not through power, but through consistency, not through big words, but through the way you show up each day. Small choices, repeated again and again, are creating a new direction that did not exist before. You may not see results yet, and perhaps you will not see them right away, but that does not make this process any less real. Some seeds planted in the ground take a long time to sprout, and during that time, the one who planted can only trust that the soil is doing its work. Your task is not to control the outcome. Your task is to keep planting, to keep standing firm, to keep saying yes to what you know is right, even when it is not yet recognized. This is when you begin to understand that awakening is not an explosive moment, but a decision repeated every day. The decision not to fall asleep on your own calling. The decision not to shrink yourself so others feel comfortable. The decision to trust that if you were placed here, there will be enough grace for each next step. You do not need to rush, but you also cannot go back as if you never heard this call. Once you recognize your place in this story, you will no longer be satisfied with standing on the sidelines. You are being invited to step into the center of the very journey you have been unconsciously preparing for all along. There is a truth you have avoided for a very long time, not because you lack courage, but because you did not want to believe it was resting on your shoulders. That truth is this: your family is standing at a crossroads, and you are the one closest to the steering wheel, not because you chose that position, but because year after year, through every collision, every time you chose differently, you naturally stepped forward. No one gave you a title. No one held a ceremony of recognition. But the responsibility is still there, as clear as your breath. You saw what was not right very early on, not through logic, but through feeling. The feeling when a conversation ends, but no one was truly heard. The feeling when the whole family is in the same place, but each person is in a different world. The feeling when old problems repeat with new faces, and everyone calls it normal so life can go on. But you cannot call it normal. Something in you has always reacted, always reminding you that these cracks, if untouched, will become breaks for the next generation. You are not the first in this bloodline to ask for change. Before you, There were those who hoped, those who prayed, those who believed in the way they knew. But some journeys are not completed in one lifetime. They are passed on, not as a burden, but as a torch. And when it reached your hands, that torch was no longer dim. It was clear enough for you to know that you could not put it down as if you had never held it. There were years in your family slowly eaten away, not by one great disaster, but by small things accumulating. Words left unspoken, wounds left unnamed, forgiveness delayed, and then a line appears, not to stir emotion, but to awaken you. I will restore to you the years the locust has eaten. Joel 2:25. That line does not promise the past will disappear. It promises the past will no longer have the right to define the future. Restoration is not returning to the starting point. Restoration is moving forward without carrying the old decay. It is taking the very years that seemed wasted and using them as a foundation for something more enduring. You begin to understand that what is coming is not only a blessing for you personally, but a restructuring of an entire system of relationships that has existed for a very long time. And restructuring always creates resistance. Not everyone is ready for it. Not everyone wants to look again at what they have learned to cover up. You have tried to explain before. You hoped that if you just spoke, everyone would understand. But then you realize that deep change does not come from arguments. It comes from preparation. Some things can only be seen once they have already begun. Like Noah, building an ark under clear skies. No one understood, no one believed, until the rain started to fall. Your obedience does not need the agreement of the majority. It needs your own consistency. At times you wonder why you are the one who feels everything so deeply, why you cannot simply let things pass. Live lighter, think less. But if you could do that, you would not be here, Sar. Those called to make a way are often those who cannot settle into false peace. They see too clearly to pretend blindness. And the cost of seeing clearly is that you must choose. Either turn away from what you know is true, or keep walking even when no one walks with you. Your family may not say it out loud, but they are watching. They notice how you respond differently, how you are no longer pulled into old spirals, how you choose silence at the right time, and speak when it is necessary. These changes are not loud, but they create a healthy disruption, because old systems always resist what is new, even when the new carries healing. You begin to understand that you are not called to carry everything, but to hold a key position, the position of the one who stands in the middle, not letting bitterness spread, not letting fear decide the direction. There are days you are tired of having to stay awake. There are moments you wish you could give up and let everything move by inertia, but something in you does not allow it. Not because you are strong, but because you have seen what happens when no one stands up. Restoration is beginning in very small places. A conversation that is no longer as tense as before, a reaction restrained at the right moment, an apology that comes late but is real. These signs are easy to miss if you are only waiting for a great miracle. But lasting miracles often begin with quiet changes like these. They do not overwhelm you, but they change direction. And in all of this, you are not being asked to be perfect. You are only being invited to keep standing in your place, with honesty and humility. The rest is not in your hands. Your work is to not leave your position, even when you have not yet seen results, because there are seeds that only sprout when the one who planted them has learned how to wait without losing faith. You are in a stage where many people give up, not because they do not believe, but because they are tired. But it is right here that the difference is made, not by greater effort, but by your continued presence, continuing to love, continuing to believe that the years that were eaten away are not the end, but the material for a story being rewritten. And as you stand firm in this, even if no one says it out loud, Something is being recognized at a level deeper than all human sight. Not every work is seen immediately, but every work done in obedience leaves a mark. Your family is being touched, not by your own strength, but because you agreed to become the starting point. There is a point in this journey when you begin to understand that not every wound comes to destroy. Some come to reveal what has been hidden for far too long. You look back at what has happened in your family and realize that much of the pain did not come from malice, but from blindness, from people who were also wounded and did not know how to heal. That does not make the pain lighter, but it changes how you carry it. You no longer carry it to protect yourself. You carry it to understand, to transform, to stop it from being passed on one more time. There are memories that once made you angry, that once made you feel wronged, that once made you want to walk away from everything just to have peace. But over time, those memories no longer keep their old shape. They begin to be seen from a different distance. Not to excuse what was wrong, but to realize that without them, you would not have become who you are now. And who you are now is the one who has the ability to stop what no one before could stop. Your family does not carry only beautiful stories. Every bloodline has chapters people do not like to mention. Wrong decisions, betrayals, losses that cannot be recovered. Some stories are told again and again in distorted ways, and others are buried so deeply that no one dares to dig them up. But whether told or buried, they still quietly shape how people love, argue, stay silent, and drift apart. And you, somehow, have become awake enough to recognize the connection between the past and the present. You are not called to be a judge of what happened. You are called to be a turning point. That requires a kind of maturity that does not come from being right, but from being steady enough not to be pulled back by old anger. There are moments when you realize that if you react by instinct, everything will return to its old place. And it is precisely the moment when you pause, choose differently, even in a very small way, that creates a crack where light can enter. There is a very old story, but it remains alive for those who are standing where you are. A man once betrayed by his own family, pushed into a path of loss and loneliness, later became the one who saved them. And when standing before everything that had wounded him, he said a line that only those who have truly walked through pain can say. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good. Genesis 50:20. That line does not erase the sin of the past, but it places the past into a greater order, where evil no longer has the final word. You are stepping into that same logic, even though you did not seek it. What once hurt you no longer has the right to decide who you will become. It becomes material, not a sentence. And this matters deeply, because if you do not look at the past this way, you will unconsciously repeat it, even while swearing you never will. True freedom does not come from running from memory, but from facing it without being controlled by it. You may have once thought your family was too complicated to be healed. Too many layers of silence, too many disappointments, too many years without truth. But what you are learning is that nothing is more powerful than the transforming capacity of love when it is guided rightly. Healing does not happen all at once. It does not spread like a flood. It usually begins in one person, then flows to the next in ways that cannot be predicted. There will be people in your family who will not say thank you. There will be people who will not admit that anything is changing. And there will be those who resist, not because they hate healing, but because they fear losing what feels familiar. But you are not called to receive recognition. You are called to hold direction. There are seeds that only sprout when the one who planted them stops staring at the ground. You begin to realize that the greatest healing is not always when everyone embraces and cries. Sometimes it is when an argument does not explode like before, when a seemingly harmless comment is held back, when an old reaction is no longer triggered, These changes are not applauded, but they shape the future. They decide how your children will learn to handle conflict. They decide the atmosphere the next generation will call normal. And in all of this, you are not carrying it alone. There are things being upheld from places you cannot see. There are threads being tied together, not to bind you, but to keep you from falling when you grow tired. You do not need to understand how everything works. You only need to keep walking with the honesty you have. That honesty, even when imperfect, is enough to shake old structures. You may still have days of doubt, days when you ask whether all of this is worth it, but if you look closely, you will see that who you are today is very different from who you were a few years ago. You react differently. You see differently. You love differently. And that difference did not come from trying to become someone else, but from allowing truth to do its work within you. This journey does not take you away from your family. It brings you back, but with a different heart. A heart no longer ruled by old wounds, but guided by what can still become. And right at the place that once hurt you the most, something new is being born, not to erase the past, but to end its power. There is a moment in this journey when you begin to realize that what is happening is no longer just emotion, and no longer just speculation. It carries a structure, an order, as if someone is placing each stone in the right place, slowly but surely. You do not see the entire structure, but you can feel the foundation being renewed. And it is in this phase that a sign begins to repeat in your awareness, not as superstition, but as an orderly whisper. The number 444 appears not to spark curiosity, but to reassure. In the Bible, 4 is connected to the earth, to foundations, to what is built to stand firm against wind and rain. When 4 is repeated 3 times, it does not speak of luck, but of multiplied protection, of a structure being locked in place by divine intention. 444 is a sign that what is being built in this season is not easily shaken. Not because you are strong, but because the foundation is being set correctly. You may have lived for a long time with the sense that everything could collapse easily. One sentence could change the atmosphere. One small misunderstanding could lead to days of silence. But now, you begin to feel a new stability, even if it is still fragile. Not because everyone has completely changed, but because an anchor has been lowered. And that anchor is you, not as a burden, but as a position prepared long ago. What is remarkable is that this stability does not come from you controlling everything more tightly. It comes when you release more, when you stop trying to fix everyone, stop straining to hold everything together in a false order. You learn when to stand still, when to speak, and how to return what does not belong to you to its rightful place. This maturity is not loud, but it creates a very strong holding force. You begin to see that your family does not need more big promises. They need a new safe space, a space where people do not always have to be on guard. And that space is not created by long speeches, but by consistency in how you show up. You are no longer pulled into every confrontation. You no longer need to prove that you are right. You choose to hold the ground, and when the ground is steady, what stands on it will adjust on its own. The number 444 also reminds you that this process is not impulsive. It is not a decision made in a moment of excitement. It is the result of many small choices repeated again and again. Each time you choose not to react in the old way. Each time you choose to listen instead of defend. Each time you choose to stop a cycle instead of continuing it. These things, when seen alone, may seem insignificant, but when stacked together, they form a foundation that your entire family is beginning to lean on, even if they cannot yet name it. You may have noticed that some people in your family are starting to approach you differently. They may not have apologized. They may not have acknowledged anything, but they feel the shift. When a familiar system loses a familiar reaction, it is forced to find a new way to function. And in that moment, what was once stuck begins to have room to move. You do not need to explain this number to anyone, or what you are sensing. Not everyone needs to understand at the same time. But if there is a number, especially 444, that causes your heart to settle, that feels like a quiet confirmation that you are standing in the right place, remember that. And if you are willing, sharing the number you resonate with most is not to convince anyone, but to mark the moment you realized you are no longer walking in uncertainty. What matters is that you do not let these signs make you arrogant, and you do not let them make you passive. 444 is not a promise that there will be no more challenges. It is an assurance that challenges will not collapse what is being built. You will still have tired days. There will still be moments when doubt returns, knocking softly but persistently. But now, when it comes, it no longer pulls you away as easily as before. You begin to understand that you do not need to rush to see results. What lasts rarely comes quickly. It needs time to set, to solidify, to become part of the structure. Your family is in that phase, not a phase of display, but a phase of reinforcement. And this is the most easily misunderstood phase, because from the outside, nothing looks impressive, but on the inside, everything is being rearranged very deeply. There may be times when you feel you are doing a lot and no one notices. You may wonder whether this patience is worth it, but foundations are never built to impress. They are built to bear weight. And one day, when stronger winds blow through, you will understand why this phase mattered so much. You are not called to complete everything at once. You are called to place the right stones for today. Tomorrow will have other stones, and the day after that, each one matters, even when no one is standing there to count them with you. There are works that are only recognized when they have held an entire house standing through the storm. If you are reading this and feel a gentle confirmation, not excitement, but something very real, stay with that feeling. It does not need to be amplified. It only needs to be honored. You are in a season where standing firm matters more than moving fast. And it is this steadiness that will open the way for things you once only dared to hope for from afar. The foundation is being laid, the structure is being secured, and even if you have not yet seen the finished building, you are in the right place to continue your work, step by step, with a protection you may not yet have a name for, but that is clearly present. There is a stage in this journey when you begin to recognize an uncomfortable truth. When things are being built the right way, pressure often increases rather than decreases. Not because you are going the wrong way, but because you are going deep enough for what is unstable to begin revealing itself. The challenges that appear no longer wear their old shapes. They are more subtle. They touch places you thought you had already moved past. And in that moment, the question is no longer why is this happening, but where will I stand when it does? You may have hoped that once you decided to step into this role, everything would feel lighter, that your family would understand more, circumstances would soften, the path would become clearer. But instead you encounter very human moments, exhaustion, doubt, even the desire to step back just to breathe more easily. That does not make you weak. It shows you are walking something real. False paths rarely test anyone. There are days when you feel stretched in multiple directions at once. Responsibility is still there. Expectations are still there. And inside you, a question repeats, am I carrying too much? But then you begin to see more clearly that not all pressure comes to crush. Some comes to shape, some comes to remove what is unnecessary. So you no longer carry burdens that do not belong to you. There is a line written for moments like this, not to comfort, but to frame things correctly. The testing of your faith produces patience. James chapter 3. Patience here is not silent endurance. It is the ability to stand firm without becoming bitter. It is the ability to continue loving without losing boundaries. It is the ability to trust that this process is working for you, even when you do not feel supported every day. You begin to realize that these challenges are not aiming to make you quit. They are aiming to make you grow. If you return to old reactions, everything will instantly feel familiar, but the cost will be losing what you have built. If you remain in this new awareness, the challenge may not disappear immediately, but its power weakens. It no longer defines you, it simply passes through. Your family is also being affected by this stage, even if not everyone can name it. When one person in a system changes how they stand, the entire system reacts. Some move closer, some pull away, some become more confusing than before. This is not failure, it is a sign of reordering. And reordering always creates friction before it creates new alignment. You are not called to manage every reaction. You are called to not return to who you were yesterday. That is the real test. Not confronting others, but not betraying what you have recognized as true. There will be days you do this well. There will be days you stumble. But what matters is that you do not quit in your heart. You do not tell yourself that all of this is meaningless. There are very private moments when no one is watching, when you wonder if you are imagining too much, if this change is real or just wishful thinking. But then you look back and notice small signs that cannot be denied. A reaction that changed, a conversation that did not escalate, a calm appearing where there used to be only defense. These things do not happen without a very real inner process taking place. You also begin to understand that faith is not the feeling of certainty at all times. Faith is the decision to keep walking even when certainty is absent. It is choosing to believe that what you are experiencing has meaning, even when you cannot yet see the outcome. This matters deeply, because if you wait for clarity before moving forward, you will always be one step behind your calling. Your family may not have said thank you. They may still behave in ways that hurt you. But if you look more deeply, you will notice that the atmosphere is changing. There is less tension. Even if it remains, there is more silence, but it no longer feels as heavy. These changes are not accidental. They are the result of your choice not to let pressure make you hardened. And there is one very important thing you need to hold clearly in this stage. You are not the source of healing. You are a channel. That means you are not required to produce outcomes, and you are not responsible if others have not yet changed. Your work is to keep the flow from being blocked by resentment, by the need to control, by the desire for immediate recognition. When you hold that space, what needs to come will come at the right time. You may have heard many people speak of patience as a beautiful virtue, but now you are living inside it, and you know it is not gentle. Patience requires you to face the feeling of powerlessness without running away, to stay with questions that have no answers yet, to trust that this process is not wasting your time. And within that patience, a very different kind of strength is being formed. Not loud, not impressive, but enduring. You are learning not to measure progress only by what can be seen. You are learning to notice the changes within yourself first, the way you speak to yourself, the way you no longer blame yourself for what is beyond your control, the way you allow yourself to rest without guilt. These are signs of a faith that is maturing, not shrinking. And as you continue through this stage, you will realize that challenges are not question marks over your calling. They are confirmations. They show that you are no longer standing on the sidelines. You have stepped into the center of a process with depth, where everything is refined before it is revealed. This is not the time to speed up. This is the time to keep rhythm. To keep rhythm with what is being done within you and allow it to do its work, layer by layer. There is a very strange moment in this journey when you realize that what comes back to life is not always loud. You once thought that if your family were truly healed, everything would explode clearly, something everyone would have to see. But what is happening is different. It is quieter, deeper, and because of that, more lasting. What died in your family is not called back by shouting, but by your steady presence in very ordinary days. You begin to notice details you once thought were unimportant, a conversation that no longer feels as awkward as before, someone who was always defensive now willing to sit a little longer, a sentence spoken without the old sharp edges. These things are not big enough to show off, but they are real enough for you to know that something is being restored, not in the way you imagined, but in the way your family can endure and receive. You also realize that some things once considered dead were actually only asleep. Faith, hope, the ability to believe that things could be different. They were buried under many years of disappointment, many broken promises, many half-finished efforts, but they did not disappear. And when the atmosphere begins to change, even slightly, these are the first things to respond. They open their eyes first, before any outward signs appear. There is a very powerful promise spoken for times like this. I will pour out my spirit on all flesh. Your sons and daughters will prophesy. Joel 2:28. This promise is not only about great spiritual manifestations. It speaks of life being poured into the driest places, of generations that were once silent beginning to find their voice, of people who once did not dare to believe beginning to see again. You are witnessing this in very ordinary ways, not through grand declarations, but through small shifts in how people respond. It might be a child asking deeper questions. It might be an older family member beginning to tell stories they once avoided. It might be you, realizing you are no longer afraid of difficult conversations like before. These are signs of life returning, not like a storm, but like the first breath after holding it for too long. You also begin to understand that a miracle is not only when the impossible becomes possible. A miracle is also when what once seemed guaranteed to never change begins to soften. A heart that was tightly closed does not need to swing wide open. It only needs to no longer be locked. And when it is no longer locked, light will find its way in. You are not the one pushing the door. You are simply the one who stays, who does not turn away, who does not leave. There are still days when you feel disappointed. There are moments when you think you imagined too much, that these changes are too small to matter. But then you remember your family from a few years ago. You remember the heavy atmosphere. You remember how people avoided one another. And when you place those two images side by side, one truth becomes clear. What is happening now, even if unfinished, is different. And that difference did not come from luck, but from a series of difficult choices you chose to make. You are learning to value quiet miracles. A peaceful evening, a meal without tension, a day without major conflict. These things may not feel dramatic, but they create a new ground of peace. And on that ground, deeper things can be built. Your family does not need more emotional highs. They need safety that lasts long enough for real change to happen. You also begin to see that this life is not only spreading outward, but flowing back into you. Parts of you that were once exhausted, doubtful, ready to give up, no longer take up all the space they once did. You still have weak days, but they no longer define you. There is a new energy, not excitement, but steadiness. You no longer have to convince yourself that things will be okay. You begin to believe it in a very quiet way. There are people in your family who have not said anything, but their eyes are different. There are people who still act according to old habits, but with less intensity. These changes are not accidental. When life begins to return, it does not break everything at once. It moves quietly. It finds cracks. And once it is inside the system, there is no way to fully push it out again. You do not need to push this process forward. You do not need to control it. Life has its own rhythm. It knows when to move faster, when to rest. Your work is not to make things happen sooner, but to not block the flow with impatience or discouragement. Every time you choose to trust a little more, to love a little more, to stay a little longer, you give life more room to spread. You may have once thought you were waiting for one big moment to be sure everything had changed. But now you begin to understand that this moment does not arrive in a single day. It is created by many small days when you did not quit. And when you look back, you will see that the days that seemed like nothing was happening were the very days that laid the foundation for the deepest change. Life is returning to your family, not in the way you imagined, but in the way that fits best. It is touching each person, each relationship, each old memory, and you, by continuing to stand where you are allowing it to happen. No trumpets, no spotlight, only faithfulness repeated each day. And as you move forward, you will see that what was once called dead never truly disappeared. It was only waiting for someone patient enough not to leave, faithful enough to stay, and loving enough to keep the door open. That person, from beginning to end, has always been you. There comes a moment when you realize that this change is no longer limited to what happens behind the door of your home. It begins to spread outward, very naturally, without intention, like a scent clinging to your clothes after you leave a room. You are not trying to carry it anywhere, but others can feel it. In the way you speak, in the way you listen, in the way you no longer react according to old patterns. And when that happens, you understand that your family is not only being healed, but is becoming a new point of reference for those around you. You begin to see that your children are watching more than you ever thought. They do not learn from what you explain, but from how you handle stress, how you apologize, how you remain calm when things do not go your way. The older ones in your family are the same. They may not say it, but they notice. They recognize that the atmosphere has changed, not as heavy, not as quick to explode. Something new is present, and it allows them to breathe more easily, even if they do not yet know what to call it. You slowly understand that legacy is not something left behind after everything is over. It is being formed right now in very small choices, in the way you do not speak badly behind someone's back, in the way you do not use the past as a weapon, in the way you choose fairness over control, honesty over silence just to keep the peace. These things do not create applause, but they create direction. And that direction will be walked by those who come after you, whether they know its origin or not. There is a line written for this very logic: the righteous walk in integrity. Blessed are their children after them. Proverbs 20:7. This does not promise that future generations will face no hardship. It promises they will not have to begin in the same darkness you once stood in. They will have ground to stand on, a standard to return to, a shared memory that in this family, there was a moment when everything turned a different way. You also begin to notice that some people who once doubted you, who once saw you as too sensitive, too different, now look at you differently, not because you succeeded by worldly measures, but because there is a consistency in you they cannot deny. You are no longer easily pulled by other people's emotions. You no longer need to prove that you are right. And that steadiness causes others to ask questions, not about you, but about the source of this change. What matters is that you do not let these signs pull you off course. Legacy is not built by becoming the center of attention. It is built by continuing to do what is right, even when no one is watching, even when no one acknowledges it. Because what you are building is not for this moment. It is for years when you may not be there to explain or defend it. And that is why it must be built with integrity. not image. Your family may not be perfect yet. There are still tense days. There are still conflicts not fully resolved. But there is one great difference. There is no longer a sense of hopelessness. No longer the feeling that everything will always be this way. There is a quiet belief that even if it is hard, there is still a way forward. And once that belief takes root in a family, it is not easily uprooted. You also begin to see your responsibility more clearly, not as a burden, but as a trust. You were not given this role to control everyone's future, but to keep the direction from drifting, so that when people stumble, they know there is still a standard to return to, so that when the next generation asks questions, they do not only hear answers in words, but see answers lived out each day. And perhaps the deepest realization in this stage is that you are no longer doing this only for your immediate family. You are doing it for something larger, even if you cannot always name it. You do it because you have seen what happens when no one stands up. And once you have seen that, you cannot pretend you never knew. True responsibility always comes after awareness. What is being built now may not be complete yet, but it has direction. And that direction is clear enough so that those who come after you do not have to grope in the dark the way you once did. They may not know your name in this story, but they will live inside the results of the choices you are making today. And sometimes, that is the deepest reward a person can receive. You do not need to see the entire future to keep going. You only need to know that each day you stand firm, each time you choose what is right instead of what is easy. Each moment you do not return to old paths. You are laying another brick for what your family will call normal in the years to come. And that normal, when built on the right foundation, is the greatest miracle of all. There is a very different kind of stillness that settles when you reach this point of the journey. Not the silence of exhaustion, and not the emptiness after everything is over, but the calm of someone who knows they have gone far enough that returning to the old way is no longer possible. You are not standing on any peak. You are not holding clear proof that everything is finished. But you know, in the deepest way you have ever known anything, that a door has opened and will not close again. You look back and realize that the greatest change was not what happened on the outside. It was the change in how you stand in the middle of your own life. You no longer wait for permission. You no longer need a bigger sign to believe you are moving in the right direction. You have become someone who can stay in tension without collapsing, who can carry responsibility without losing tenderness. And that is something no circumstance can take from you. Your family is still on the way. There are still stories not yet finished. There are still relationships that need time. But one thing has been locked in from the inside direction. There is no longer the same sense of being lost. No more unconscious loops repeating themselves. People may not be able to name what has changed, but they are living inside it. They are breathing a different atmosphere. And you know, deep within yourself, that this did not happen by accident. You also begin to understand that you were not called to make everything explode. You were called to make things last, not to impress, but to lay a foundation, not to become someone extraordinary, but to become a place of support. There are roles that are not carved into stone, but are etched deeply into the lives of others. Your role is one of those. When you think about the future, you no longer see it as a vague chain of worries. You see it as a space slowly opening, just enough for you to keep moving forward without being overwhelmed. You do not need to know how everything will unfold. You only need to know that you will not return to the old way again. And that decision, repeated every day, is what keeps this journey aligned. There may be moments when you forget how far you have come. There may be days when doubt returns, when fatigue settles in, and when you ask yourself if all of this is worth it. But even on those days, one thing will not change. You have seen the truth, and that truth has freed you from living on autopilot. You no longer only react, you choose, and that choice carries the weight of a legacy. Your family will continue writing their story, with their own edges, their own mistakes, their own joys. But the underground current has shifted direction. What was once impossible to speak can now be named. What was once called normal but caused harm is no longer easily accepted. These things will not disappear overnight, but they have lost their control. And when you look at yourself, you can see this clearly. You are no longer someone who only wished things would change. You are someone who has begun to live in a different direction, not because you are stronger than others, but because you were willing to carry the responsibility of change. You did not wait for someone else to do it for you. You stood up, step by step, in silence, in patience, in a faithfulness not everyone could see. This story does not end here. It does not have a final moment where you can exhale and say everything is done. But it has reached something far more important. It has been set in the right direction. And when a story is set in the right direction, time will do the rest of its work. The seed has been planted, the foundation has been laid, the current has been redirected. From here, each day you live will continue adding a line to that story. No need to rush, no need to prove anything. Simply continue to show up as the person you have become through this journey. A person no longer led by fear, but by clarity. No longer trapped in the past, but grounded in the present, facing the future. And if there is one thing that remains after everything else, it is this simple truth: you were not chosen because you were perfect, but because you were willing to listen, willing to stay, willing to keep going when many stopped. That willingness opened the door your entire family is now walking through, whether they know it or not. The story is still unfolding, but the most important part has already begun. And from here, nothing goes back to the way it was before.
Grateful that you chose to spend these moments in the light of this story. If it touched your soul, please like, share, and subscribe, and ring the bell so the next whisper of light may find its way back to you.